Hey everyone. What if Deku was abandoned by his mother? How would this change his path to greatness? Let's dive into this alternate universe. It had been 3 years since Wang took Izuku to India, more specifically to one of the many temples that practice Buddhism. In that period of time, at 2 years old Izuku opened his eyes. At that moment many monks, who for years searched for the meaning of the universe, life, and death reached enlightenment. But it only took 5 seconds for the little boy to open his eyes. Since then the monks had an incredible appreciation for him. At first they saw him as the new Buddha, but then when he was 4 years old, they grew fond of him. At this time Izuku was a quiet and calm child. Although he liked to play with the children in the streets, and near the Ganges. Now we can see Izuku meditating at the feet of a giant statue of Buddha. 6 hours of pure silence had passed, during which Izuku peacefully conversed with Buddha. Although Izuku did not see him as the first enlightened one to achieve divinity, but rather as his father figure. Buddha, well. Speaking in a deep but serene and very calm tone, how was your day today, son? Even then, Buddha saw him as a son whom he would educate and teach as if he were a father. Izuku, Wang scolded me for being late to mantra practice. Although speaking in an innocent tone I don't blame him, I got carried away playing with my friends near the river. He gave a small smile. Even though he scolded me and the monks had dinner with fruit and fish. Letting out a small laugh, it was fun. I already knew that Wang cooked badly, but some monks had no idea. Buddha, I see, my son. But remember this. Despite everything, it is food, it should never be wasted. Many people worked hard to bring that food. From the farmers to Wang who prepared the food, he said in a calm tone, and let's not forget the one who contributed the most. The earth. Izuku looked confused, he didn't know what his adoptive father meant. That the earth also helped? How? No matter where he looked at him, there was no meaning in his words for the boy, even though it sounded crazy, he trusted his father. He had always taught him to see life in a different way. So he decided to do the most correct thing possible. Ask him. Izuku, the earth? He said, confused and a little shy. I don't know what you mean, father. Buddha, letting out a small, deep laugh and lovingly began to explain to him, it's very easy Izuku, the earth is what gives life to things, plants, trees, animals, water, and even us. The earth was in charge of making the tree where the fruit came out grow. The tree was in charge of making the fruit grow. And the farmer took care of that tree so that it would do a good job. Izuku, he understood what he meant. He immediately felt a little sorry for not eating all of Wang's food. I understand. It means that I rejected the effort of life, right? And what about the fish? Buddha, that's right, little one, letting out a sigh, and the fish is the same. Sounding happy, the fish initially started out as an atom, then molecules. Later cells. And little by little a small being was formed that grew, feeding on what gave life. And then reproducing. And finally it reached its death. Izuku, death? He seemed a bit sad. That's when people leave to never come back, right? He said with innocence in his voice, shyness and sadness. Buddha, you are still too young to know that, my son. Take good care of yourself and continue on your path. Remember, life is a cycle, there is always a beginning. And an end. Time skip 2 years. We can see an Izuku trained in punches and kicks emanating as cosmos in a meadow full of flowers. Right now he had a bindi on his forehead. It's the red dot on the forehead. This represented the third eye, an important energy center located between the eyebrows, which is said to give vision of the higher reality of the universe once released. Izuku not only trained physically until he was exhausted, which caused him to receive constant scolding from Wang, since he saw him as a little brother or also as a son, but at the same time he trained as cosmos, managing to awaken at such an early age the seventh sense, the infinite cosmos or speed of light. These feats were achieved so quickly thanks to the guidance of his father Buddha. Right now we find him meditating while Buddha tells him about his purpose and that he will become the next saint of Virgo. This impressed the little one so much that for a moment he opened his eyes, causing havoc in the monks' meditations. Which they immediately knew who the power belonged to, which worried them a little. Since Izuku never used to open his eyes, since he was born he kept them closed most of the time. But at age 5 Buddha told him to keep them closed to control his power, in short, suppress it. Buddha, whenever evil threatens to rise again. Along with despair. The saints of Athena appear. It is said that with the backhand of their hand they are able to cut the sky, and with a kick, destroy a mountain. He spoke with a joyful voice since remembering one of his students, the first saint of Virgo, brought back memories. Izuku, and I am the one chosen to be the last saint of Virgo, isn't that right, father? He said calmly. Buddha, yes, you will be the next golden saint of Virgo, he said with satisfaction and peace when entrusting such a task to his son, you will be responsible for ensuring world peace. Izuku, Golden Saint? I asked this curious person to the suffix Golden Saint. Buddha, that's right, there are a total of 12 Golden Saints. Represented by the constellations bathed in sunlight, the 12 zodiacal constellations. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. These represented the elite of Athena's saints. The most powerful. And the most noble and brave, sometimes proud, but willing to give their lives on the battlefield to protect life in the world. Izuku, I understand Buddha Otosan saying this he was happy. For some reason he felt like he wanted to protect every living being, which was part of him, to remove suffering to bring happiness. 2 months later. At this moment you could see Izuku running away from Wong. The reason? Well, for someone who is calm, and the next saint of Virgo is somewhat childish. Izuku, don't do it Wong, leave me alone. Izuku simply ran desperately, putting some monks in the middle so as not to be caught by Wong. Wong, Brett, I told you to come here, he said, chasing the 6-year-old boy around the temple causing havoc. The monks watched with a drop of sweat what was happening. Izuku kept running and throwing tantrums to be left alone, despite being almost someone with an apparently infinite calm. The truth is that he got upset easily, but he didn't show it. A person who constantly has conversations with Buddha, the meaning of his wisdom and temperance. Running for a haircut? Wong, I told you to come here, you have to cut that hair. You leave the whole temple full of hair, and the worst thing is that you trail dirt with you, he said, already irritated from following him. Izuku, you will not mess with my hair, cheap wizard. Izuku jumped on the roof of a pagoda, avoiding being hit by Wong. You might be wondering, how long is her hair? Well, it was 4 meters long. In short, she dragged it around most of the time, and sometimes she dragged dirt and grime and other things along with her. Izuku, haha, you won't be able to catch me here, he said with confidence, since it was impossible to reach him. Wong, you think so, you unruly brat? In that, Wong begins to open a portal behind Izuku, and with one pass with a razor for barbers he cuts his hair, leaving it long to the middle of his back. Wong, you think so, you unruly brat? In that, Wong begins to open a portal behind Izuku, and with one pass with a razor for barbers he cuts his hair, leaving it long to the middle of his back. Izuku, no. My hair, he said, screaming and shedding tears of joy. Damn overweight David Copperfield, he said, quite upset by what Wong had just done to him. Wong, who are you calling fat, dwarf with Buddha brand satellite signal? He said with an angry face. There's still more hair, come back here. Izuku at that very moment started to run like hell, avoiding Wong as much as he could. You might be wondering, why didn't he use his light speed? Well, he was so focused on the survival of his beloved blonde hair that he limited himself to just running, until Wong got fed up and decided to leave him as he was. Buddha, my son, he said in a calm tone, don't you think you exaggerated a little? From Nirvana you could see the drop of sweat on Buddha's temple. Izuku, father, you too? Crying comically, then calming down. 1 month later. After the incident, called by the monks, Buddha's golden hair against the scissors of death and order. Izuku. After 5 days after the incident. Right now you could see a sad Izuku. Every day during the month he would go to lament at the feet of the Buddha statue. He would not leave his sadness aside. The monks worried about him since he was loved by everyone in the temple. The reason? It's a bit sad. His friends, with whom he continually played, died fighting a serious illness. In doing so Izuku became more closed off and less energetic. He constantly went out into the streets, now seeing completely the decadence and poverty of his country. After walking a bit and passing near the Ganges, he returned to his place of lament that he continually visited, that is, at the feet of the statue of his father and teacher. Buddha, Izuku. Izuku. Why are you so sad? He said with a worried tone. You're only 6 years old and yet you sit there every day complaining. What is it that worries you? Izuku, today I saw many dead bodies floating in the Ganges River, and on the shore, pilgrims from all over India were purifying themselves. I had the impression that they were celebrating death instead of life. He said it with a tone of lament. They celebrated death instead of life, he said this in a tone of lament. Why is this country where I live so poor? It seems that we are only born to suffer and lament. People here live only among misfortunes. Buddha, Izuku. Does that make you sad? Asking in a calm tone. Izuku, of course. With a slightly brittle voice. Who wants a life full of sadness? Buddha, you are wrong Izuku. Where there is sadness, there is joy and vice versa. Beautiful flowers bloom, but eventually they die. Remember what I once told you Izuku. Everything in this world is changing, saying the words calmly and slowly to explain to his son and student, always in motion, never the same. Everything changes. So is the life of man. Izuku, almost bursting into tears, but if death is inevitable, it must be that sadness is what dominates our lives! Even when we overcome suffering, let's look for love and happiness. Death will take it all away from us. Starting to cry and with a broken voice, I don't understand. Why are we born in this world? When we can't defy something as complete and eternal as death. Why are we born into this world? When we can't defy something as complete and eternal as death. Buddha, Izuku. It seems you forgot, right? Izuku, forgotten? Buddha, that's right. Forgotten. Death is not the end of everything. Giving a long pause. Death is nothing more than another transformation. At that moment, Izuku leaves his lotus position and falls to the ground, sobbing and lamenting, for not having been able to do anything for his friends, and the dead people in the river. Buddha, Izuku. Izuku. Don't forget. Death is not the end of everything. All those born as men but turned into knights, have managed to overcome death. Izuku. If you could also achieve it, you will surely become in the man closest to God. After the revelation of the cycle of life and death by his teacher and father, Izuku began to see society and life in a different way, which consisted of enjoying life, appreciating it and not wasting it on mere whims such as greed and self-interest without looking at who you hurt along the way. He was kinder to everyone, more understanding, but there was something that Buddha, no matter how many times he tried, could never teach him: how to treat a woman. When he spoke to one, he did so in a calm manner, and all he wanted was to end the conversation quickly. However, if it went on too long, he lost his role as a calm, serene and elegant man. His attitude changed to a nervous and somewhat shy one. On the other hand, when he faced some villains who tormented civilians on the streets, his normal attitude could be said to make him a little arrogant, since for him they were mere lost souls and scum. 2 years had passed. Izuku was already 8 years old. A year ago he received the Virgo armor, completing his physical and mental training. He could now generate a large amount of cosmos. Now he was dedicated to learning the techniques corresponding to the Virgo sign. 2 years had passed. Izuku was already 8 years old. A year ago he received the Virgo armor, completing his physical and mental training. He could now generate a large amount of cosmos. Now he was dedicated to learning the techniques corresponding to the sign of 2. The armor. Izuku with the armor. We can see Izuku with all the techniques already learned except for one which was extremely difficult for him. It was none other than the Tenbu Ho Rin, an ability that consisted of transporting the target of the technique to a space of supreme harmony full of Buddhist mandalas in which he could take away the 5 senses of his opponent and finish him off once and for all. Izuku, Tenbu Ho Rin. Within a radius of 50 meters from him the landscape changed to only Buddhist mandalas. It was like a different room in space. Well, I finally did it, he said with clear emotion. Buddha, he was stunned. Izuku achieved the treasure of heaven without even opening his eyes, something that the previous Virgo saints never achieved. Exceptional, my son, you are undoubtedly the most powerful Virgo saint in all generations. Izuku, that's not all, I have trained 2 ultimate techniques, you gave me the idea. Since it deals with the beginning and the end of life. Or the universe. Buddha, really? He said, stunned by what his student had mentioned. Izuku, yes, that's right. Although they are very destructive and I won't use them unless it's vitally important, he said in a serious tone. Buddha, Izuku. Can I ask you a question? He said in a serious tone. Izuku, of course father, he saw the seriousness with which his father spoke to him. Buddha, would you be willing to give everything to protect the innocent? To give your life for your loved ones and bring peace to this world, even if they treat you like scum and a coward? He said it in a sepulchral tone. Izuku, he was impressed. It should be noted that he had no words at that moment, but in his mind an old promise resonated. He did not know who he promised it to, but he felt that it was the most precious thing to him, to protect people. Of course father. He answered, determined without any doubt in his words. Buddha, Izuku. Your cosmos is very large, and you are capable of increasing it even more than that. Therefore I will teach you a technique forbidden to the Golden Saints by Athena herself. Izuku, forbidden, by Athena? He said it with some curiosity. Buddha, that's right. This technique is used by combining the power of 3 golden knights. It is as powerful as the Big Bang itself. But he paused for quite a long time, and for the first time with a doubt whether to teach it or not. Those who use it will be treated as traitors and the worst cowards in history, in addition to losing their honor as a knight even after death. This technique is called the Athena exclamation. Izuku, upon hearing what Buddha said, I could only feel doubt. Many doubts and uncertainty, but those doubts went away as quickly as they came. Father, show me. You said that I have enough cosmos, then I can do it without help. I don't care about losing my honor, if it is to save people's lives and protect peace and justice. He paused briefly. I will gladly accept the title of coward. Buddha was surprised and proud of his student and son, sacrificing everything of himself, just for the good of other people. He understood that Izuku has the spirit of self-sacrifice, lying on the barbed path so that others pass over him. Buddha, very well, son. I will teach it to you, but remember, not only will you be branded a traitor and a coward, but this technique has a 99% chance that those who use it will perish by the power of Athena's exclamation itself. Izuku, I understand, father, I will not back down. A few days later, Izuku felt something. As if something was taken away from him. He was meditating in the mountains. But out of nowhere he started to cry tears of blood. Out of nowhere his mind filled with images, seeing an older lady with green hair, giving him affection and looking at him with a mother's love. Flashback. A woman in a coat and hood could be seen standing in front of a box with a baby inside. Inko, Izuku. Promise me that you will help people. Please. End of flashback. Izuku, still in the lotus position, he sobbed and continued crying. Blood, I swear, I will keep that promise. Mother. He wondered, what had happened? Well, what happened was that Inko Midoriya, Izuku's biological mother, had died, and Izuku felt it even though he was so far away. He felt that his mother had passed away, but he knew well that death was just another change. Her soul would rest in peace in nirvana and her body would return to earth, becoming part of the flow of life again. Japan. A few minutes before. A woman could be seen lying on the ground, with a hole in her chest in her last moments of life. This woman was none other than Inko Midoriya. The reason for being like this was a villain who had attacked many civilians and was none other than Moonfish. His quirk was razor teeth. There were several rookie heroes trying to stop him, but from one moment to the next he escaped and left no trace. Mom. No. A little girl screamed desperately, holding her mother in her arms. Please. Don't die, Mom. Don't go. Inko, no. Izumi. You can't do anything. I only have one last request. With difficulty breathing, look for your brother. Find him, support each other, and don't forget. Be a great heroine. Fulfill your dreams, my daughter. In that instant her hand fell and she closed her eyes so that her soul could finally rest. Izumi, be brother? She said, crying, still shocked by her recently deceased mother. Mom. Mom, wake up, Mama. Although with much sadness, and a slight touch of hatred towards the villain, Izumi Midoriya was more determined than ever to become a heroine, with the sole thought of protecting them all and preventing anyone from going through the same thing she went through. Time skip 7 years. At this moment we can see an Izuku wearing a red shirt and black pants with black mountain-style boots, with a backpack and a suitcase next to him. Around his neck hung a necklace with the sign of Virgo. He was leaving the Tokyo airport. He returned to his place of origin with the sole fact of becoming a hero. Since it was the only way to be able to protect people without being a vigilante, he thought of being one at some point, but he would not only hurt heroes if he faced them, but also civilians. To get there he only needed a one-way ticket, since he invested all his savings in this trip. He investigated beforehand at the airport with the help of a guard. He asked which was the best place to learn to be a hero. The guard told him that the best option was the prestigious UA Academy located in Japan. With this in mind, Izuku set out to find the UA Academy. For as long as he can remember, he lived in an environment with very little technology, so let's say that arriving in Japan was a bit overwhelming. To say that Izuku was excited was an understatement. He was surprised. He had just then understood how big the world was. He saw cars, some old, others so new that they seemed straight out of a science fiction book, buildings, some small and others that reached the sky, nothing more to say. And for the first time in a long time, he was excited. He didn't just see that, there were stores selling different things, many people walking around the city, and sometimes a hero or two arresting criminals, but he stopped for a moment and ran at light speed to a specific place. No, it wasn't the UA or to stop someone. He went to an ice cream stand. Izuku, excuse me, can I have a vanilla one please? Salesman, of course, young lady. He prepares an ice cream for her with a big smile. You could see that he enjoyed his job. Izuku, thank you very much. Here, At that moment he gave her the corresponding money, but the second thought it was strange that he called her young lady, but he didn't pay much attention to it. Salesman, thank you, ha ha, enjoy it. He said this with a big smile to continue serving people. Izuku noticed several glances of lust and envy. Did this seem strange since it came from both men and women? He didn't understand, but something occurred to him. Izuku, excuse me, I asked a police officer, do you know where there are men's bathrooms? He said it in a medium loud tone. Officer, yes, a few blocks in that direction. When she noticed that Izuku approached her, she thought it was a woman, but when she noticed the tone of voice and obviously that he asked for directions to the men's bathroom, she thought he was a handsome boy. Izuku, thank you very much. Without further ado he left in the direction thinking if his plan had worked, and indeed it did. At that very moment, the looks of envy, hatred and some of mockery were only from the men, and those of lust, and unholy thoughts that Buddhism prevented Izuku from thinking, from the women. At that moment, a vein appeared on Izuku's temple, annoyed that they confused him with a woman just because of his face and hair. Seriously, did they not even notice the clothes I was wearing? He thought about it with clear annoyance on his face, although people found it strange since when he walked, he had his eyes closed. Izuku, well, I'm here, it's time to fulfill my promise, mother. At that moment he felt an evil cosmos, but not strong enough to be a threat, so he gave it less importance and continued walking, seeing all parts of the city, marveling at the technology, at the same time walking in the direction of the UA to see when the entrance exams will be. After walking for a long time, Izuku finally arrived at the entrance of the UA. On the way he saw many heroes with very striking outfits, and on the part of some heroines something provocative. Midnight, this baffled our saint a little since he thought that more than saving people she seemed to model in front of people. Once he entered the UA he caught the attention of some applicants and teachers who were passing by, then a young woman with blue hair approached him to ask him why he was at the UA. Excuse me, you're here to sign up to be a heroine, right? She said, smiling and a bit curious about her closed eyes. Izuku, I've come to register for the entrance exams, he replied dryly and somewhat irritated. He was fed up with being mistaken for a girl because of his long hair, and without further ado he continued walking towards the registration room. At that moment the girl was surprised by the fact that it was a man, and so was most of those around her. Some students thought the guy was a transvestite and others thought he had strange tastes. On the part of the women he seemed like a handsome boy, but what caught everyone's attention the most was that he always had his eyes closed. At that moment they thought he was blind or it was part of his quirk. After registering, he just had to wait for the exam day. The problem? Well, the entrance exam to the UA was in 10 months, he had no problem waiting. The problem was where he would stay, since apart from not knowing almost anything about the city, he didn't have enough money to pay rent. While walking he could see a bank robbery. In this he could see multiple hostages tied up and gagged while the 5 assailants were taking out the money. For the police and heroes who were at the place it was impossible to enter because if they did they would kill the hostages. Thief 1, nobody move or I'll leave these people like a pin cushion, he said, pointing his gun at several hostages. Hero, we will accede to your demands, but do not harm the civilians, he said, worried about the hostages and helpless to do anything. Thief 2, I like it like that. I want you to give us the money and the structural papers of the banks surrounding this one, now. Instantly, he moved his gun upward, shooting into the air. Heroine, that's enough, I won't stay here, waiting for them to kill you. Then she ran towards the thieves who at that moment pointed their weapons at the heroine. Thief 2, die, bitch. At that moment all the thieves fired at will. At that moment the heroine could only wait for her imminent death as she saw the flashes coming out of the criminals' weapons. Everyone saw a flash in front of the heroine known as Ryukyu. Izuku, Kann. At that moment a completely golden shield was formed around both of them made of pure cosmos. Are you okay? You shouldn't be so reckless, miss. Ryukyu, she was speechless seeing that. Why yes, thanks for that, but. She didn't finish as Izuku said another mantra. Izuku, Goma in. Saying those words the 5 criminals fell to the ground, unable to stand up in any way. Thief 3, what the hell is this? I can't move. He said with clear anger in his shout. Thief 4, damn brat. He buried himself further into the ground as Izuku increased the gravity even more. Izuku, scum should stay in the trash, he said with a bit of arrogance in his voice. The heroes and police then arrested the robbers and freed the hostages, while many newscasts recorded the events, seeing that the young man with long, golden hair saved the heroine and stopped the criminals. Izuku, well, I think it's time to keep looking for a place to stay. He couldn't take any more steps since the heroes and the police stopped in front of him. Policeman 2, put your hands up. You're under arrest for using a quirk without a license, he said, pointing his gun at Izuku. Then all the police officers took aim, and the heroes were in attack position. Izuku, he looked at everyone with a calm and peaceful gaze. He already knew why they would arrest him. I will surrender voluntarily, but if you tell me, how could you have saved the heroine? If you answer that question, I will surrender. At that, those present looked at each other with doubt and dismay. No one could have saved her. They knew that the young man, no matter how illegal and irresponsible he was in using his quirk, had saved her. Endeavor, I don't care, said a tall, muscular man with flames on his face and hair. You're a criminal for using your quirk. I'll arrest you right now, brat. Izuku, I see that the others understand my irresponsible action, but you, pointing to the hero, still do not understand the meaning of a life at risk. Will you use your quirk against me? He asked in a somewhat serious tone. Endeavor, that's right, you're a criminal and I will not hesitate to do it. With this he launched himself at Izuku, ready to punch him in the face. Izuku, fool. He just extended his arm with his open palm to stop the blow while a Buddhist mandala formed in his palm, making it bigger. I don't have time to waste with people who have their minds closed in their own world, without looking at the people who suffer every day. With that, Izuku disappeared in a flash and nothing remained but a totally enraged hero number 2. Endeavor, damn brat, he said angrily towards the Saint of Virgo. After the incident, Izuku could be seen walking towards a monastery, the one in the image at the beginning. He was planning to ask for accommodation for 10 months, since when he went to register for the exam they told him that once he passed he would go to live in the UA dormitories. I put the dormitories immediately. Meanwhile, entering the monastery he could see an old man with a long beard drinking some tea. Izuku, excuse the inconvenience, sir, he said in a respectful tone towards his elder. If it is not too much trouble, I would like to ask you to stay here for a while. He said this while bowing. Izuku, excuse the inconvenience, sir, he said in a respectful tone towards his elder. If it is not too much trouble, I would like to ask you to stay here for a while. He said this while bowing. The man noticed the young man's presence, and with a cheerful calm he, of course young man. As long as you don't cause problems, everything is fine. Some company will do me good in this lonely place, he said with a little old laugh. By the way, my name is Yasuhiro. Nice to meet you. Izuku, thank you very much, my name is Izuku. I saw the man, he emanated an aura of calm and peace, something that Izuku liked. Yasuhiro, he. It will be a pleasure to have a monk from the Ganges in my house, he said smiling. Izuku was surprised by what the man said. How did I know? He couldn't finish because Yasuhiro interrupted him. Yasuhiro, because of your aura. I've witnessed many similar auras and all of them came from monks from India. I'm impressed that you are one at your young age, he said smiling and helping Izuku with his bags, giving him a normal room, not so luxurious, but for him it was more than enough. Izuku always lived in a very modest way, therefore this room seemed a little ostentatious to him. Over the course of the months, Izuku dedicated himself to meditating in a pagoda that was near the monastery halfway up a small mountain. During these months Izuku gets along well with Yasuhiro, helping him meditate and reach a state close to enlightenment. He also helped the old man a lot since he was blind, while Yasuhiro taught him how to prepare traditional tea and helped him search for. During these months Izuku gets along well with Yasuhiro, helping him meditate and reach a state close to enlightenment. He also helped the old man a lot since he was blind, while Yasuhiro taught him how to prepare traditional tea and helped him find a part-time job. 5th month. Izuku can be seen meditating in the pagoda, in the lotus position while levitating, at the same time emanating his cosmos, causing his hair to stand up a little. You may wonder why he is emanating his cosmos in that way. The answer is that he is doing vigilante work, using his techniques from a distance so that no professional hero finds out about his actions. In these months Izuku, using the Goma-in, has been helping heroes and people in trouble, either with villains or false heroes, which the latter bothered Izuku quite a bit, since they used their status to abuse innocent civilians. During the first month Izuku could be said to have scanned the city, seeing how far the range of his techniques could go. His surprise was that it covered all of Tokyo. When he found out, he began his work as a security guard in the afternoons and evenings. Both heroes and villains did not know what was happening. Sometimes their bodies felt heavy and other times ghosts could be seen when attacking the criminals. The reporters thought it was something or someone. They named him a Shinigami because of the spirits that sometimes appeared. Also, Izuku increased his friendship with old Yasuhiro, seeing him as a close person and wanted for him, either helping him with the chores of the temple, or with his daily shopping. In these months Izuku was very happy, since he felt the presence of his sister. This made him fill with joy because he finally found her. but he knew that if he introduced himself as her brother now he would put her in danger of the evil cosmos that has been bothering him since he arrived in Tokyo. 8th month. At this moment Izuku was meditating in the middle of the night and felt a great commotion in the city. He noticed that a mob of villains was causing chaos, so he tried to use the Goma in but was surprised that the villains were not affected. Izuku found this strange but deduced that they were not normal people. They were bodies without souls, therefore the technique did not work. Izuku, I guess there's no other option. If I use it they'll know my location and possibly discover me, but there are people at risk. In that Izuku puts his hands in a prayer position slightly separated. Om. As he recited the words he began to concentrate more and more cosmos in his hands, forming a small galaxy in them. His hair began to rise abruptly. At this moment Izuku moved his hands as if holding a small sphere between them without losing his lotus position. The amount of energy that Izuku emanated was insane. Even the glow of his cosmos could be seen from a distance. Anyone who was in the city saw that glow. Hero 1, what is that? Said the hero, scared of the energy. Heroine 1, I don't know, but the pressure it exerts can be felt even here. At that moment both heroes went in the direction of the glow, to investigate what was happening. Izuku, your souls have left your mortal bodies. It's time for you to stop dirtying this beautiful world with your filthy feet. Disappear, vermin. Tenma Kafuku. At that moment a ray of energy was shot out from the pagoda, destroying its roof. The ray along its trajectory was heading towards the center of the city, where all the villains who were only inert bodies, Nomus, were together to start another attack against the civilians. Hero 2, damn, we can't stop them by any means. He said in a frustrated manner. Heroine 2, what is that? Said a heroine in an outfit that resembled a cat. Heroine 3, watch out Mandalay. Shouted one of her companions with the same outfit only in light blue, who at that moment lunged at her companion to avoid the impact of Izuku's attack. At that moment the attack hit all the Nomus, generating a tremor and a beam of light so bright that those present had to cover their eyes. At the end of the attack, a large hole left by the impact could be seen. The heroes present looked out and saw something that left them perplexed and scared. There was nothing. The creatures that were there a moment ago simply turned to dust. Hero 2, what the hell was that? Said a man dressed as a cat with quite a lot of muscles. Mandalay, I don't know Tiger, the truth is that if it weren't for Pixie Bob I would have ended up the same as them, she said, very terrified to see the scene in front of her. Pixie Bob, it was pure luck. Then her communicator sounds Ragdoll informs me that she is heading to where the attack occurred. She is with the hero Kamui Wood, she said in a fast tone. Tiger, well, we have to capture whoever or whatever did this, he said, very worried about the power that the individual or thing had. Elsewhere, a man could be seen wearing a black suit and wearing a respirator connected to machines. Ha ha. Laughing elegantly, if I can steal even a little of that power, I can multiply it as many times as I want. Now my goal is to get even a small atom of his power, he said while looking at a screen that showed the large crater in the center of the city. After Izuku launched his attack to save hundreds of people from the strange creatures, two professional heroes arrived at the pagoda behind him, a heroine with an outfit that resembled a cat, and a hero whose outfit resembled a tree with a few roots. At that moment Izuku knew he had no escape, he had to surrender voluntarily. Without further ado he had the power to send them flying and destroy everything in his path, but the teachings of his master, and those of the monks, prevented him from committing acts of villainy. KW, you. Are you the one who launched that light towards the city? He asked somewhat doubtfully, since if it was him he had to be prepared for an arduous battle. Izuku, that's right, I was the one who launched that power against the creatures, without losing his lotus position and calmly answering the questions of the newcomers. Ragdoll, why you have, so much power? She said, very scared seeing Izuku's aura. What she saw was simply the universe. Izuku, I'm impressed you can see that, Miss Heroine. Izuku, I'm impressed that you can see it, Miss Heroine. But while standing up from his position and placing his hands in front of him, I surrender voluntarily. Both heroes were left without answers, but only seconds later they took Izuku into custody, taking him to the other heroes and the police. Pixie Bob, did that girl really cause all this? She asked, excited that a girl made that huge explosion. Izuku, Miss Heroine. For your information, I am a man. With a vein marked on his forehead. Everyone in the place, eh? They said excitedly. Izuku, TSK. I'll send them to Buddha. At that moment I couldn't be more angry with the people. Pixie Bob, ha ha ha. Is he really a man? He looks like a girl with such long hair, ha ha, she said, laughing, looking at Izuku. Tiger, hey, Don't laugh. Having hair like that is for men. In ancient times some gladiators had quite long hair, he said with his arms crossed while watching Izuku enter the patrol. Mandalay, in any case, it is not right to make fun of it, she said in a scolding tone to her companion. Pixie Bob, ha ha ha, sorry. He said calmly, laughing and putting on a serious look, but that kid has an incredible quirk, doing that attack at such a long distance. Ragdoll, I don't think that was it. She said in a low tone and with some fear that child could escape right now and finish us all off. Mandalay, what did you see in it? She said in a curious tone. Ragdoll, without being able to say almost any words for fear of experiencing it for the first time, I saw the universe. 1 week later. An Izuku could be seen meditating in a cell levitating, the reason? Well, after arresting him for quirk misuse, some people thanked him, because they found out through murmurs of the heroes that he had been the one who launched that attack. Guard 1, you have visitors. Looking with some disgust at Izuku. At that moment Izuku could see several well-known heroes, among them were the group known as the Wild Pussycats, All Might, Midnight, Eraserhead, and Present Mike. Izuku, what do I owe your visit to? I don't think you're here to get me out of prison, right? He said in a calm tone. Nezu, that's exactly what we came for, young Izuku. He said, a small rodent? Bear or something, it actually looked like a stuffed animal. All Might, young Izuku, we want you to join the UA Hero course, he said with a smile on his face. Midnight, we saw what you're capable of, darling, launching that attack at such a long distance is incredible. And to think that I thought you were a girl, he said, licking his lips. Eraserhead, it's a boy. He said in a monotonous tone. Izuku, I was already registered for the exams, I will enter the hero course but not by recommendation, I will do it with my own effort, he said without leaving his position also. That's not the only thing you want to ask me, is it? Nezu, yes, there is something else. Not only did you launch that attack, months ago you protected the dragon heroine Ryukyu, forming a barrier and reducing the thieves as if you were crushing them with gravity. The question is, what is your quirk? Said the bear, raccoon, cat, mouse, in a curious tone. Izuku let out a light laugh. I don't have a quirk. The closest thing I have to a quirk is being able to talk to my father and teacher. He is Gautama Siddhartha, or as you know him, Buddha. Everyone present, be Buddha? Said everyone except Eraserhead, who was sleeping in a corner. Ragdoll, it's impossible. I saw that you had a universe inside you, she said excitedly like the others. Izuku, tempo rin in. At that moment the place turns dark and behind Izuku a giant statue of Buddha appears. Buddha, what my son tells you is true, he said it in his tone of pure peace, as usual, do not distrust him, he would never lie. Buddha, what my son tells you is true, he said it in his tone of pure peace, as usual, do not distrust him, he would never lie. Everyone present, he's Buddha. They all said, about to faint, except for a caterpillar in a corner of the room. Mandalay, impossible, he's actually Buddha. Nezu, this is amazing. To think that we are in front of Buddha. He said in a happy and excited tone. Buddha, calm down, I will explain to you. Izuku, since he was born, has had the ability to communicate with me, he is my successor, to the title of Buddha. He said, making a long pause, now answering the young lady's question, pointing to Ragdoll. What you perceived in Izuku is an energy that is currently extinct, called cosmos. What you saw inside Izuku was only a small part of his cosmos. Ragdoll, what, just a part? He said with clear fear of such energy. Buddha, that's right, but don't be afraid, the cosmos is possessed by all living beings, but when quirks appeared, the cosmos of people fell asleep. In short, those who possess quirks find it impossible to wake it up and use it as my student does. He said, finishing his explanation and then disappearing. Nezu, and young Izuku, do you accept? Izuku, I will do it, I will accept, but keep this a secret, because if it becomes known around the world that I have a power that no one has seen, everyone will want to learn it or take it, especially if they know that I am the next Buddha. Present Mike, all right baby. Said this excited man to wake up his caterpillar friend. Izuku, it seems that we will see a miracle of life, a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. He said, seeing Eraser here waking up. At that moment everyone present laughed and took Izuku out of his cell. Time skip on entrance exam day. We can see Izuku walking and entering the UA to take his entrance exam. On the way he noticed that several students and people were looking at him. He understood immediately and decided to enter quickly with an annoyed face. Then he sees a green-haired girl who was a bit nervous looking at how big the UA was. Izuku simply smiled when he saw her, As he passed her, he smiled and whispered just for her to hear. Izuku, it's good to see you at last, little sister. At that moment he continued walking, leaving a paralyzed and confused Izumi. Izumi, eh? At that moment he realized what he had been told by brother. He wanted to keep walking but he tripped, but before falling he remained floating in the air. With Izuku. We can see Izuku entering a large room and sitting down to wait for everyone to arrive, to start the exam. In a short time the room was full, now we just had to wait for the teacher who would give us the instructions. At that point the lights turned on, something that looked like a stage. Present mic, to all applicants. Welcome to my show. Everybody say hey. At that moment in the room only a great awkward silence could be heard. What a difficult audience. Then, I will tell you what the practical exam is about. Are you ready? Again silence took over the room. Izuku, this is no longer funny, it's sad, he said in his thoughts. Izumi, he's the voice hero. Present mic. Incredible. I hear him every week on the radio. Are all the UA teachers professional heroes? She said, whispering excitedly with immense happiness. Present mic, after the written exam. You applicants will have a 10-minute training battle, you can bring whatever you want with you in this battle. After the exam you will head to the battle center specified for each of you, okay? Okay? In these there will be 3 different types of villains or robots which will give points for destroying them depending on their difficulty level, of course attacking other applicants is prohibited. Or any other non-heroic action. I have a question. Said a young man with blue hair and glasses. The brochure shows 4 types of villains. If it is a misprint, the UA, the most prodigious school in the country, should be ashamed of this error. He said in a loud voice. And you? The curly-haired one. Pointing at Izumi, you've been mumbling the whole time. It's disgusting. If you're here for a field trip then get out. Izumi, sorry, she said it in a low voice. Izuku, at that he stops with some annoyance. You should let the teacher finish his explanation and not get ahead of yourself. Besides most of the applicants are nervous about the test. If you are not flexible enough to accept human nature, you should think again about the fact of being a hero. At that he sits down again. Present mic, thank you young blonde, and continuing with the explanation, the 4th robot is the worst of all, the 0 points, see this more as an obstacle, if you see it simply run well without furthermore we are starting. After taking the written exam that Izuku was the first to finish since they were general knowledge answers, they went to the battle centers. Izuku was wearing his white Buddhist attire, he was just waiting for the instructions to start the test, he was in the battle center D. Izuku, it seems that several people here are nervous, I don't blame them, it's natural. At that moment Izuku sat on the floor starting to meditate. Everyone looked strangely at this action by the long-haired young man, most already knew he was a man because of the interruption in the written exam. Present mic, well started. At that moment the doors opened but nobody ran. Izuku, at that moment he jumped over everyone and began to run in an extremely fast manner with his arms to the sides and somewhat backwards, not as exaggerated as Naruto. Present mic, what's happening? In real life there is no countdown run. At that moment everyone started to run but they realized that Izuku already had the advantage and had finished off 5 robots in the blink of an eye. Izuku, in the eyes of the others, was unstoppable. Between kicks and open palm punches, there was no robot that could stop him. He quickly began to accumulate points without much effort, but at one point a large number of robots appeared in front of him. Izuku decided to use one of his techniques to finish quickly and simply sit and wait for the test to end. Izuku, Goma in. At that moment Izuku jumped, increasing the power of the technique, causing the robots to simply crush and become like metal carpets. In the monitoring room. Nezu, this year we have several promising students, don't you think? Said this bear, platypus, stuffed animal. Midnight, I'm attracted to that blonde boy, since we arrested him he already stands out, but I'm impressed that he hasn't broken a sweat. Eraserhead, that kid with the explosions in his hands is also interesting, he said, it's a miracle he's not sleeping. Ectoplasm, well, nothing is certain yet. The real test is about to begin, he said, then pressing a red button. The fighting around the city continued. Izuku already had 110 points so he decided to see if anyone needed help, but no one had any problems so he stayed in a building meditating and waiting for the test to end. Izuku, I guess that's enough now, I just have to wait for the test to end. I wonder how my little sister will do, he thought, a bit worried about his sister. There was only 1 minute left for the test to end when they felt tremors and screams from the students telling them to just run. Applicant 1, it's 0 points. It's huge. Applicant 2, it's not just 1, it's 3 robots, all run. Izuku, seeing this, didn't pay attention to it. He simply stayed there meditating, thinking that everything would turn out well, but he wouldn't count on a zero-point robot catching a girl who had connectors in her ears, who was screaming for help. Izuku, at that moment only a few words came to mind: protect them, protect the people. Girl, help. At that moment she just closed her eyes, thinking that everything was over, since the robots launched 6 missiles each, but out of nowhere she heard some simple words and she no longer felt like they were holding her. Izuku, Kan. Izuku was seen surrounded along with the girl in a golden shield on a piece of building floating in front of the robots, completely stopping the missiles thrown at them. Izuku, Kan. Izuku was then seen surrounded along with the girl in a golden shield on a piece of building floating in front of the robots, completely stopping the missiles thrown at them. Was without armor. Everyone was open-mouthed in shock, both the aspirants and the heroes in the control room, watching as a student in the lotus position had saved the girl from 3 zero-point robots. Not only that, but that strange shield had held up unfazed by the attack of those 3 gigantic robots. Girl, what's going on? What are you doing? She asked, a bit upset and scared. Izuku, what do I do? He said, smiling. What a hero does. In that instant Izuku joined his palms, forming a galaxy between them, accumulating a very large amount of cosmos, so much so that the girl was scared for a moment, but, for some reason she felt relieved and safe. At that moment Izuku joined his palms, forming a galaxy between them, accumulating a very large amount of cosmos, so much so that the girl was scared for a moment, but, for some reason she felt relieved and safe. Izuku, simple scraps doing such an act, unacceptable. Tenma Kafuku. At that very moment Izuku launched the attack towards the robots, making them disappear from this world. It is worth noting that both heroes and aspirants were open-mouthed. Seeing such a display of power was incredible, but they did not know that that was not all the power of the Saint of Virgo. Just at that moment the alarm sounded that the exam had ended. Izuku, this is the first step. To honor your promise, mother. We can see Izuku descending from the piece of rubble along with the girl. He calmly descends from the still floating rubble. After the girl descended in the same way, the rubble crashed against the ground. It is worth mentioning that those present looked at him with a face of stupefaction. Applicants, the male, they all thought in unison. Izuku, are you okay? He asked, looking at her, and with a calm voice. It should be noted that she was shorter than him. Girl, why yes, thank you for saving me, with a slight blush on her cheeks. Not only that, she was intrigued by why she had her eyes closed. Izuku, I'm glad to hear it, if you'll allow me. At that moment he began to walk to go home, and to see old Yasuhiro again. Girl, wait. What's your name? She asked a little doubtfully. Izuku, without turning around and stopping only to say his name. Izuku, my name is Izuku. Then he prepared to continue on his way again. On the way home, she wondered why no one came to help her, why no one had the desire to be a hero. Is humanity so corroded by selfish desires and evil that only a few people still have the light of hope, of giving their lives for a greater good? These simple thoughts about human behavior made him doubt whether they truly deserved protection, since before arriving in Japan, he only saw suffering and sadness, but also in those desperate lives, he saw shreds of love and joy. Not only that, he felt that not only human beings suffered, but also the planet itself in which they lived. Common issues such as pollution and deforestation. At first glance he saw that this world suffered because of the greedy goals and thoughts of human beings. From then on he decided to try to be one with nature. Perhaps that would be the answer to reach definitive enlightenment, and he also decided to consult with his father and teacher. Yasuhiro, you're back. Izuku. The old man felt the presence of this. Izuku, it's nice to see you again. Yasuhiro-san, he said with a small smile. The results will be ready in 4 days, since it will give us time to move to the dormitories. He said, a little embarrassed. Yasuhiro, I see, it will be a bit lonely without you here. But first he approached Izuku and hit him on the head. It was for destroying the pagoda, brat. He said it with annoyance. Izuku, rubbing his head, ouch. I'm sorry Yasuhiro-san, but I already paid for the repairs with the last thing I had. Yasuhiro, never mind, come and help me prepare dinner. 4 days passed in which Izuku spent his time meditating and talking to Buddha, this time wearing his armor. It was the 3rd day. In the early morning around 3:30 a.m. Izuku was in the lotus position meditating. He wanted to feel nature, and he was getting it little by little. But the presence of the selfish actions of some people on the planet made him lose that path. However, Buddha looked at him with interest. He already knew that he was only one step away from becoming an enlightened being. But the presence of the selfish actions of some people on the planet made him lose that path. However, Buddha looked at him with interest. He already knew that he was only one step away from becoming an enlightened being. Buddha, you have complications, right? Buddha asked the saint of Virgo. Izuku, the malice of people does not disappear. Even among heroes there are people who only seek their own benefit. I still do not understand human thought. Why is it in human nature to cause suffering and sadness to other people? Why in the same way, some people are kind and fill other people with love and happiness? He said with confusion and a lot of calm. Buddha, the first step, my son, is, he said in a calm tone to teach his disciple a lesson, do not pay attention to the faults of others, to the things that others have done or failed to do, consider only what you yourself have done or failed to do, said Buddha wisely. Izuku, you mean that, with the things I do or don't do, I can make a change no matter how small and insignificant it is? He said with great doubt. Buddha, that's right. Anyone can judge the actions of others, but if that person does nothing to change that course, he will be the same as the person doing the judging. Izuku, I understand. Father, he said smiling, since it had been a long time since he had a teaching conversation with his teacher. Buddha, even though sometimes mistakes cannot be solved, sooner or later they will receive the opposite action from those who cause evil, a scientist once said. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Life is such a good teacher, that if you do not learn the lesson, it repeats it. Izuku, and, that is the way to achieve enlightenment? He asked this towards the teachings of Buddha. Buddha, everything in its own time, to reach that path, you have to discover your truth, your purpose and your actions in this vast and beautiful world, he said with clear happiness in his voice. Izuku, how? How do I do it? He said with much doubt. Buddha, the answer lies within you, Izuku. You may hate many people. That is known as the cycle of hatred. One person seeking another out of revenge or simply hatred in their heart, once they finish that hatred towards the person who received it, another takes its place. And so on and so forth, it is an infinite cycle. Izuku. Hate will not cease with more hate, hate ceases with love, said Buddha before cutting the connection with his pupil. Izuku, I still don't fully understand it, I still have a lot to learn, Izuku thought, still in his position. 5 days later, Izuku could be seen in the UA uniform. He had already moved his things to one of the dorm rooms and remodeled it to his liking. He was about to leave the temple in which old Yasuhiro offered him shelter and hot food. He was more than grateful to the old man. Izuku, thank you very much, Yasuhiro-san, he said while bowing. Yasuhiro, you're welcome, Izuku, you are a peaceful and very kind person. I know you can achieve your goals, he said with a slight touch of sadness. Your mother must be proud of you wherever she is. Izuku, she is, she was since I came to this world, he said with a nostalgic touch. Yasuhiro-san, I want to pay you in this way for what you have done for me. In his hand he emanated his cosmos, putting it over his blind eyes in the years that she has left. She should appreciate the beauty of this world for herself. He said with a smile, opening his eyes a little without releasing power. Yasuhiro, at that moment the old man opened his eyes, seeing Izuku's appearance for the first time. A calm man with a happy smile, and eyes as blue as the sky itself. You are a handsome young man, it seems that things will go well for you in love, in that he looks around seeing trees, plants, birds flying freely, the world is more beautiful than he remembered. Izuku, in that Izuku was leaving towards the UA, it was a pleasure to meet him. Yasuhiro, same young mind Izuku. Already at UA, Izuku headed to his assigned classroom. Arriving at his classroom, the first thing he saw was a huge door in front of him. Izuku, well, I guess it's for the quirks. Entering the room he found a somewhat strange scene. A ashen-haired boy could be seen arguing with a blue-haired man with glasses. Don't put your feet on the desk, he said reproachfully to the gray-haired boy. Eh? What do you want, you damn four eyes? He said with an arrogant tone. Don't you think it's rude to the UA and the people who made these desks? Izuku, that's the robot boy? He thought with doubt when seeing the scene. It seems that no one noticed that he entered the room. I'm not interested. What school did you go to? You have such a straight character that it disgusts me, he said smiling with superiority. Lita, I went to Same Private Academy, my name is Lita Tenya. Same? You're a fucking elite? I'll have fun crushing 4 of your eyes. Izuku, who uses 4 eyes as an insult these days? He thought with a drop of sweat. Lita, crushing me? He said in surprise, do you really want to be a hero? Out of nowhere behind Izuku, his sister arrives, seeing the 2 people who were arguing. Izumi, oh no. It's those 2, she said with an aura of nervousness, turning to see the young man standing in front of her. Hello nice to meet you. Izuku, the pleasure is mine, he said simply. It seems that she is nervous about those two. Lida, you are. Approaching both of them. Good morning. I am from the Same Academy, my name is. Was interrupted by Izumi. Izumi, I heard you she said a little nervous. I'm Midoriya Izumi. Lida, Midoriya-san, you discovered that there was something else in the practical exam, didn't you? I had no idea, I hate to admit it, but I misjudged you. You're better than me. Making robotic movements. Ooh, you're the one with curly hair. It's good to see you're okay. I was impressed when you jumped and made the robot go boom. And boom, it exploded. Said the young woman with clear emotion. Izumi, oh. You're the kind person, Uraka isn't she, said smiling when she saw her. Aizawa, if you're going to play with your friends, go somewhere else, said a caterpillar outside the classroom. Izuku, it's good to see you again, Oruga-sama, he said with a slight smile. Everyone in class, oh Caterpillar-sama? Aizawa, it took them 8 seconds to remain silent. Time is limited. I am your teacher Aizawa Shota, it is a pleasure. Now. Put this on and go to the field. In the men's locker room, Izuku could be seen changing. Everyone thought he was a woman at first, but when they saw his toned but thin body, they rejected that idea. He's more of a dwarf with grapes on his head, and he felt confused. Hey look, our senpai left us a gift from the gods here. He said, pointing to a hole we can see the girls' locker room. Lida, that's morally incorrect. Mineta-kun. Mineta, think about the banquet on the other side, imagine the body of that green-haired girl in the D. He couldn't finish because he crashed to the ground. Izuku, Goma, and causing Mineta to turn into jam. I will not allow such vulgar acts. After that he left already dressed towards the field. Lida, what chivalry. He is like a gentleman. She said approvingly, moving her hand like a slot machine. Already in the field. All students, a quirk assessment test? Uraka, what about the entrance ceremony? And the orientation? Aizawa, if you're going to become heroes you don't have time for useless things. UA is a strict school, both its classes and teachers. You've done this before, but without your quirks. Izuku, you came first in the practical exam. What was your softball pitching record? That Fortunate beat me, he thought with clear irritation. Izuku, I never did such a thing. In India I only dedicated myself to training and meditating. Everyone was shocked at such a revelation. Now he explained the red dot on his forehead. Aizawa, well, it doesn't matter. Here and throw the ball, use your quirk. You can do whatever you want as long as you don't leave the circle. He threw the ball to Izuku and he started to walk towards the circle. At that moment Izuku got into his typical lotus position with the ball floating in front of him, and little by little he began to levitate in the same way. Then Izuku put his hand forward so that the ball would go out at a moderate speed but without stopping moving away in the sky. Aizawa, are you done? It seems like it's already out of the atmosphere, he said, showing the result of infinity. Everyone at that moment was impressed by the ability of the Virgo Saint. Izuku, that's right, Aizawa-sensei. Standing up from his position and returning to the group. Infinite, really? Said a humanoid Pikachu, upset with the Virgo Saint for some reason. Can we use our quirks? It will be fun. Said a pink-skinned girl excitedly. Aizawa, fun, huh? Well, whoever comes in last place will be expelled immediately. He said with a terrifying look. Natural disasters, major accidents and annoying villains. Japan is full of injustice. Heroes are those who oppose and turn that situation around. Welcome to the UA, go beyond plus ultra. For the 50-meter race, Izuku against Kaminari, at that moment they got on their marks, got on? Izuku just stayed meditating in his typical position, infuriating the Pikachu a little. Machine, Izuku versus Kaminari Denki. Kaminari, I'm going to beat you, sissy, he said very confidently. Machine, on your marks. Get set. Go, Izuku, time, 0.001 seconds. Everyone was shocked as in the blink of an eye Izuku was in the same position on the other side of the goal. Kaminari, damn pretty boy. The tests continued normally except for lateral jumps. Even though Izuku considered him a hopeless pervert, the dwarf did well in that test, and in the long jump a girl who resembled a frog stood out. Izuku found several peculiarities interesting. They passed the tests and it was time for the throw again. In this Uraka got the same distance as Izuku. Infinity. Now it was Izumi's turn. Izumi, the time has come. At this rate I will be the last, she thought with concern. Lida, it doesn't look good for her, at this rate she is going. He was interrupted by Mujamd Alahad. Bakugo? Ah? Of course, that bitch has no peculiarity, just so you know. Lida, what? You don't know what he did on the entrance exam? Izumi, by my mother, I swear. I swear that I will become a heroine, throwing the ball with all her might. Machine, 46 meters. Izumi, what happened? She said stunned. Aizawa, I erased your quirk, he said with his red eyes and his hair raised. Aizawa, from what I see, you still don't control your quirk, right? He said, looking at her with some anger. Aizawa, from what I see, you still don't control your quirk, right? He said, looking at her with some anger. Izumi, the eraser hero Eraserhead. Aizawa, your determination will not be enough. If you become incapacitated, you will only be a useless doll, hindering others. That's what you want, right? Izuku, that's enough. Sensei. He said, passing in front of everyone. She already understood it. Aizawa, taking Izumi with his bandages. Izuku returns to the line. Izuku, no. He said dryly. She already understood, give her one more try. Aizawa, he released Izumi and set his sights on Izuku, still with his hair levitating. Do you want to blame me? Izuku, at that moment Izuku turned on his cosmos while lifting his hair in the same way. That's right, sensei. The two looked at each other for a long time, generating a great tension in the environment that even the students themselves got nervous. Aizawa, Midoriya, you have 2 more tries, your quirk has returned, do it already. Throw the ball. Izumi, at that moment Izumi had her head down, thinking about the best option to pass the test. And she got into position, concentrating one for all on her index finger. No matter what happens, I will be a heroine. Smash. At that moment everyone looked in astonishment at the young green-haired girl, who only had a fractured finger. Machine, 705 MTS. Izumi, sensei. I can still move, she said with determination in her eyes. Aizawa, this girl. Izuku, the value of a hero is not measured by the size of his muscles, or his popularity, but by his spirit, determination, and bravery, he thought happily, seeing his sister. Bakugo, what the hell did you do, damn bitch? Launching himself against Izumi, ready to hit her. Izuku, he quickly stands in front of her using his cosmos shield surrounding him and Izumi Goma in this way, putting Bakugo against the ground, immobilizing him. He was standing and without armor. Bakugo, what did you do, damn you? Let me go. He said with anger in his voice. Izuku, without listening to him, he just looked at Izumi out of the corner of his eye. A long road lies ahead for you, dear sister. We could see a Bakugo stamped on the ground, extremely upset, with bloodshot eyes from anger. Bakugo, damn feminine, let me go. I'll kill you, that bitch, anyway. At that very moment, gravity increased on his body, leaving him even more immobile and beginning to crush his bones a little. Aizawa, activating his quirk. Izuku. Leave it, if you don't want to get expelled, he said it in a very serious way. Izuku, okay Aizawa-sensei. At that moment he breaks the position of his hands, leaving Bakugo free, who was about to attack both of them. Aizawa, same goes for you, Bakugo. Bakugo, TSK, hey. Bitch. You better tell me later how you got a quirk. Saying this with hatred towards Izumi, he retreats to his companions to continue the tests. Izumi, thank you, for helping me, barely able to stop due to nervousness. I'm talking to a boy, WHO's not Kachan. She thought, almost on the verge of fainting. Izuku, you're welcome. He said it simply. After that event the tests continued normally, I say normally without counting our golden saint, after Bakugo's insults towards his sister, let's say. He needed to release stress and a little anger. Ending the tests we can see Izuku, who came first in the tests, followed by Todoroki, Momo, and finally Bakugo. In last place was Izumi, who had a depressive aura around her. Izuku did nothing since he knew that yes, he would expel those without potential, but that was not the case with Virgo's sister. Aizawa, by the way. The expulsion thing was a joke, I did it so you would give your best, said Mama Caterpillar with a somewhat strange smile. The expulsion thing was a joke, I did it so you would give your best, said Mama Caterpillar with a somewhat strange smile. -60. All students except 2, WTF? Momo, of course it was a lie, it was obvious if you think about it carefully, she said strangely to her companions. Izuku, that's true, since it's impossible to be expelled for having the potential to be a hero. Although, I wasn't joking about the expulsion. At that moment Izuku sat on the floor in his traditional position waiting for Aizawa to end the test. Kyoka/Mineta/Kaminari. I didn't even notice it. Kirishima, going all out is so manly. Especially when Izuku protected Midoriya, he's such a manly gentleman. Izuku, shedding a small tear finally. Someone who recognizes me as a man. Kirishima, ha ha ha. But at first I thought you were a woman, he said it with a smile. Izuku, with a depressive aura around him, he wanted to be reborn to have a more manly appearance. Tenbuho. He couldn't finish to end his life due to manly depression since Aizawa interrupted him. Aizawa, with this we finish. In your classroom there are pamphlets with the study plan. Read them and do not disturb. At that moment he returned to his cocoon and simply jumped through a window into the halls of the UA. Izuku, is it a flea now? After finishing the tests and Izumi going with recovery girl, they were on their way to the UA dorms. Izumi could be seen about to faint from exhaustion while her companions were talking a little further ahead, then everyone stopped when they saw a small path that led to the forest near the dormitories. Without further ado, everyone left, except Bakugo and Todoroki, who without any interest went directly to the bedrooms. After walking for a while, you could see a small hill that wasn't that big. On top of it were 2 cherry trees and in the middle Izuku meditating on a pedestal in the shape of a lotus flower. After walking for a while, you could see a small hill that wasn't that big. On top of it were 2 cherry trees and in the middle Izuku meditating on a pedestal in the shape of a lotus flower. Imagine he is on the pedestal and without his armor. Kirishima, what will he be doing? I ask no one for no reason. Hagakure, leave this to me. At that moment she went behind Izuku trying to scare him. Kaminari, I want to see that sissy jump, he said it with clear hatred towards Izuku, but he fell to the ground for the same reason that Izuku saved himself during the exams. Kyoka, shut up pervert. Angry for her partner and friend for some time now. Izuku, Hagakure-san. If you do, your beautiful blue hair will become disheveled, he said it in a calm manner without turning around or losing his posture. At that moment everyone was stunned by Izuku's words, since it was obvious that they couldn't see their partner with the invisibility quirk. Hagakure, blue hair? Why, you can see me? But you have your eyes closed. She said this almost as if it were a dream. Izuku, of course I can see you, just because I have my eyes closed doesn't mean I can't see the colors of the world. Do you want me to show you? In that instant Izuku took Hagakure's hand, becoming visible to those present at that moment. Lita, Hagakure-san. Why you? These are. Almost fainting from the impact, she took off her glasses and cleaned them to see if it wasn't a product of them. Hagakure, what? What's going on? She said desperately. At that moment Momo creates a hand mirror and approaches where the two are, to hand it to a stunned Hagakure. Momo, look. Hagakure, at that moment Toru Hagakure felt enormous happiness since her quirk had been active since she was born, being able to see herself. Her long hidden face she could finally contemplate. It's my brother's fault for showing me the anime, whoever knows which anime it is will understand why, damn it's good. Izuku, see? Your hair is already disheveled. He couldn't finish because he felt Hagakure's hug. At that moment he remained calm like one of the wisest monks, but the truth was that he was dying from the shame he felt for being hugged. Hagakure, thank you. She said this already shedding tears of happiness, but she quickly separated, very blushed. It could not be noticed since the moment she stopped touching Izuku she became invisible to everyone again. I'm sorry. Izuku, it doesn't matter, we better go to the dorms tomorrow, there are classes. What do you say? Looking at the others with astonished faces. All, why yes. After a few minutes everyone was in their rooms, either remodeling them to their liking or simply resting for the next day, but despite that, everyone wondered. What was Izuku's quirk? He was able to crush Bakugo with strong pressure, form a shield, and make his partner visible. Everyone was wondering, who are you? Izuku? Izuku was meditating in his room, already decorated like a Buddhist temple with mandala carpets, a small statue of Buddha and a small bonsai, his bed on one side and a small pedestal in the shape of a lotus flower with a small red cushion. He was training his illusory techniques, since it was one of the strongest abilities of the Virgo saints and could not be missed, following Buddha's instructions, and recounting that his predecessor Asmita of Virgo, was the best in this field. In that Izuku hears the thoughts of his companions, wondering who he is. Izuku, who am I? I am a golden saint at the service of the goddess Athena, guardian of the 6th house of the zodiac, Izuku of Virgo, he said to himself with a small smile. The next day. We could see the students already in their classrooms waiting for their teacher to arrive. Mina, who do you think will be our teacher? She said it a bit excitedly. Tsuyu, I don't know, it could be Aizawa-sensei again. Karo. All Might, me. I'm coming through the door like a normal person. All Might, me. I'm coming through the door like a normal person. Izuku, it's official. I lost all the respect I had for him, he thought with clear disappointment and a drop of sweat. All, great. It's All Might. Kirishima, amazing, he really is a teacher. Tsuyu, that suit is from the Silver Age, right? All Might was walking, in a somewhat strange manner towards the teacher's position while the students admired him, especially Izumi. Except for a blonde who for some reason looked embarrassed and more drops of sweat came out on his head. Izuku, why does he walk like that? Does his foot hurt from taking such long steps? I was stunned that the peace symbol was a bit weird. All Might, good morning students. I will be giving the hero training, so it will be a different way to learn the basics of being a hero. Pausing without losing his trademark Marvel Comics smile, let's get straight to the point, this is what you will do today. Takes out a card that had battle written on it. Combat training. Bakugo, training. Izumi, F fighting? All Might, and that's what your hero suits are for. From the wall that All Might was pointing at, boxes with a number on them came out. After changing, go to the testing area. Yes. Already at the training camp we can see All Might waiting for the students of Class A, who little by little come out showing off their spectacular costumes. All Might, you look good. Realize. From now on you are heroes. Very well. Shall we start now? Izumi, wait, I'm missing. Said she who came running in her suit. All Might, very well. All that was missing was young Midoriya to start, he said, looking with an internal laugh at his student for how obvious she was. Mineta, seeing Izumi and Uraka Ue is the best. All Might, very well started. He couldn't finish because Mineta fell behind him, burying himself in the pavement. But what? Turning to see Izuku, but he was just meditating. How strange. I swore I saw their positions. Well, never mind. Let's start with the fights. Izuku, this will be interesting. Don't you think, Izumi? Izumi, EA? Why yeah, I think so. Hee. After All Might explained the steps to follow and how the groups will be divided, except for Izuku who will be left alone as a villain, after the fights ended it was Izuku's turn to face Todoroki, a not-so-injured Bakugo since the fight ended quickly, and Kaminari. These last ones would be the heroes. Bakugo, I'm gonna blow that sissy up. Todoroki, I see you hate him quite a bit. Kaminari, I'll fry him alive. All Might, start. Once All Might gave the signal, the three of them hurriedly entered the building where Izuku was with the bomb. Izuku was on the top floor sitting in his typical position, but there was something strange and his companions could see it through the cameras. Izuku was levitating and emanating an aura of golden color, not to mention that his hair was also rising a little. All Might thought he would use a powerful attack which worried him a little, but after a few minutes he did nothing, he just stayed in that position. In those minutes they could see how the three heroes were just going around in circles. Something so obvious to everyone was not so for the three who were lost on the first floor, already completing 3 minutes. Bakugo, damn, what's going on? He said, quite frustrated. Kaminari, I don't know, but this is already bothering me, man. Todoroki, there's a light there, let's go. At that moment the three of them set out to go towards the light. When they crossed it, they were shocked. All this time they thought they walked for a long time, but they were simply trapped. Yes. They were walking in circles in the palm of Buddha. They were walking in circles in Buddha's palm. Todoroki, that's Buddha. Kaminari, Izuku, he's the one who does this. He said, shocked as they were trapped in his palm. In the camera room, all the students could be seen confused. Since the cameras had microphones, they were very confused as to why they were trapped and saw Buddha until All Might spoke. All Might, they are in an illusion that young Izuku put them in all this time, but they finally realized it. He said it with an impression and seriousness but incredible pride. Momo, looking at the camera which focused on Izuku, is he doing that from there? Kirishima, he's very manly. Hagakure, she could only look impressed at what Izuku was doing. Bakugo, what the hell? At that moment he launched a gigantic explosion by pulling out one of his triggers on the grenades on his wrists, causing the illusion to disperse. Bakugo, ha, it's just a child's game, that effeminate is below me and can't even fight hand to hand. Todoroki, no. This isn't over yet. At that moment, an infinite number of hands appeared from the ground and in the same way from the walls and the ceiling, For some reason, the illusion was seen through the cameras, which shocked the entire Class A, including All Might. At that moment, an infinite number of hands appeared from the ground and in the same way from the walls and the ceiling. For some reason, the illusion was seen by the cameras, which shocked the entire Class A, including All Might. Kaminari, this is impossible. How the hell are we going to pass? He said it with clear anger in his words but also fear. Bakugo, tsk damn feminine. At that moment the alarm sounded that the test was over. All Might, the villains, sorry. The villain wins. He said euphoric. Izuku, it was easy since they rushed in trying to catch me and fell right into my trap. Hey, it's better this way, I hate unnecessary combat and fights.